enough of these teardowns have inspired this idea. I won't take credit for it. Jeremy is kind of pioneering this thought around what is, no, seriously, what is AI personalization really doing to your results? You use the metaphor, Jeremy, of like made in China goods, and a lot of the teardowns we've been doing lately have this AI flavor, and it's putting a bad taste in our mouth.
Yes, there's, I think there's a consciousness about coming back to quality at some point. And I think here's the thing. If you're listening to this episode and you're doing AI, first line intro, automation, and so on, thinking that volume is going to actually help, I
Or
think you need
save
to hear
you.
the, yeah, save you. I think you need to hear about this episode, right? Um, because I think that's something that's hurting people without them knowing it because they just like follow the crowd. But I can guarantee you, in 3 months, we're gonna see a different picture. That happened with a lot of fads. I was telling you about the Lemlist fad at some point about like, hey, getting an email personalization will get an email personalization will get you more replies, and it did, for a couple of years. And nowadays they're struggling because that trick doesn't work anymore. I think we're not going to have to wait 2 years before people realize that AI personalization is shit, plain shit, and actually hurting you. Because I believe if you can get good personalization at the volume that you're sending for your AI personalization, you're gonna get like so much more results. And right now, the total addressable market is not infinite, and I think it
Mm-hmm.
forces you to go broader and not narrower because you need
Mm-hmm.
volume in order to make it work. And lots of missed opportunity. I think it, it leaves a bad taste in my mouth because I think a lot of people are getting burned without even knowing it, and forced into playing a game that is a losing game long term. Like Google puts things in place to prevent us from sending more spam and stuff like that, and this is a losing battle. And I feel bad for people who feel on the with who are basically
Mm,
getting swayed by AI is going to solve, the AI personalization
that's
straight away.
right.
We've seen it 2 episodes
It'll.
ago. It's not rocket science to do good personalization. It requires really, I mean, it requires some skills. Like I'm not denying it at all, but it is possible as a human.
Straightforward.
As a human, you should be
Mm,
able to do it, right? And so that's my
mm.
kind of rant, kind of philosophical, view on it. And
It's not a rant. It's not a rant. I think we're sitting here today, Jeremy. We're not new to the space. Like we have I think a 10-year outlook on proper cold email at scale, more or less about 10 years. And
yeah, 10
that
years.
means we have
Exactly.
weathered a few 10 years exactly. We've weathered a few storms. I remember like there they've came and gone just like the image personalization that you were talking about. It used to be really clever to put an image of a dog drinking a coffee with the person's name in the image, and it would get you, twice the
Get
replies, and it was
viral,
great. Yeah, and I think we've just seen this happen enough times where we're old enough to recognize this is yet again happening. And the bad thing is there's a lot of folks that don't have that outlook, and they're clinging to volume and hoping that the chat GPT personalization is just going to allow them to inbox and to connect with so many more prospects. But it just comes down to this. Like, if you really read one of your messages and pretend you received it, is that truly going to impress you? Or are you playing a numbers game where you just really better hope you hit the right prospect on the right day, or else it just won't work? Right? Like, we're missing that element of pattern recognition, uh, spotting trends like this one, and just asking, like, just because that's where a lot of us have gone, are you sure that's helping out?
To be
Yeah,
clear, I don't think that's their fault, really. I think it's a narrative of the moment. If you listen to, I don't know, Twitter gods or whatever type of, medium you're reading, everyone is feeding you with like, oh, this is a future. Yeah, but it's not a present. And I don't believe this is the future. Every time we've seen some of those fads, we always come back to the fundamentals, which is, oh yeah, I mentioned to you the philosophy of Amazon, which was client first. Do you think you put your prospect first when you're selling shit like that? Like, obviously not. No one wants to receive those fake AIs, like starting on a fake, like relationship. Like, no one wants that. And so we're gonna see back, coming back to the fundamental at some point. And I
It's
believe sooner than later with AI at the moment.
so what's the opposite of that?
Nice one.
So I think the opposite is like it comes back to the golden rule of let's say email outreach is send messages that you wish you would have received, or even better, the platinum rule, send messages that the prospect really would have wanted to receive.
Yeah.
And right now it's not as straightforward as just, blast away and drop in cheap lines. I think it also means there's an element to multi-channel, perhaps, where this fits in. Imagine
Yeah.
if we really put the prospect first and we're willing to invest in each prospect. It means a number of different things, Jeremy. It means, one, we're going to cut out a lot of the people that are on our list today because, frankly, this is expensive to do for the whole market. But lucky for us, the whole market ain't buying. So how do you find the 5% that wants to buy this month and then write 200 times better for that smaller group? It would also mean that you've got more money to spend in this kind of outreach. So you may add different touches. This is where we have people on our show who talk about they do mailing campaigns in tandem with their cold outreach because they're willing to spend some more money to find ways to build that relationship the right way as opposed to the cheap way.
Yeah. That's a very fair point. If you put your prospect first and you're going for a proper personalization for them, your total addressable market doesn't need to be huge. And in fact, like, people with AI will tell you, oh yeah, but it saves me so much time, whatever. Like, yeah, but how many leads are actually you are actually burning because your personalization is rubbish and it turns people off. And scale won't help you if you actually, the idea is like, I don't know where that comes from, but the idea was to narrow and narrow to get niche and niche. But if you got a list of 100 people, you can't afford, like, it goes against AI. Like, it's like, oh, with AI, like, you're going to get only 10% right, but it's okay. You're going to send 10 times more volume. It goes against everything. And, it's like, if you put people first and you get it right with your personalization, you're going to make them feel better. And only that is already like adding value. So that means you put people first. Let's say, for example, I did my first marathon last year. And how much would that have cost you? Like, I mentioned it on LinkedIn. How much would have cost you to just look at my profile, see like, oh yeah, he's mentioning that in his latest post. Let's just send him an email and say, hey, congrats for your marathon. I've been trying to do that for the last 3 years. I didn't succeed. You guys are studs. And what, and I wanted to actually talk about
how much different
else. It's like, at least I feel good, right? And it's like, you could do a lot of good in the world rather than like, hey, I try to get you like with, like, who are you already on the call? Yeah, I got you with AI and stuff. Like, what a sour taste in my mouth you're gonna put.
That's a good point. What does that do if you look at the big picture? Another thing it makes me think, Jeremy, is if we're really putting the prospect first, we don't have to feel the need to rush them into, here's my calendar for a 30-minute meeting. Like, instead, you're putting the prospect first, maybe just ask a qualifying question, or maybe figure out a way that you can deliver value before the call so that it's very clear that there's a fit here. So it's better for the prospect, right? Like, if you shrink your list and put that prospect first, it allows you just to give them a better experience from day one, which is that first cold message typically. And I wanted to share a story. I was on a call with a client yesterday, and they told me, basically they had done a test campaign reaching out to, let's just say, a certain kind of professor, right, Jeremy? They were selling to universities, like deans of no, you could do it. You could do it.
I know, but it's tough. I tried it in the past.
It's fair, but imagine this: like, it turned out that within the department that the dean worked at, they were publishing research all the time. And so
Nice.
my client had a really interesting idea. I gave him a lot of credit for coming up with it, but they would download the abstract to the latest research published by this department and have ChatGPT analyze it and write something about the outcome of the results.
Okay.
And they tested it. And he's told me two things that were interesting. He's like, first, when we looked at the output, it needed a lot of human intervention to the point where it didn't really save time. And they went ahead with the experiment and sent it to 200. Again, small sample size, but like their company was very optimistic here. And I asked him, how did it do? And he said, no leads. Like, and I was like, 0. And he's like, yeah, 0. I was like, well, what about negative reply? He's like, Jack, it got completely crickets. Like, just flat out did not work. And it made them rethink how much of an asset it was to be able to come up with these clever tactics. And he just said, look, we've moved away from that. It doesn't work. And they were back to the drawing board.
But it must work. Like everyone on Twitter is talking about it. No, I'm kidding. It comes back to some of the things we were saying, like way back. We always started with the fundamentals, which was, send an email and talk about their advantage, not your advantage. Right. And you can't really fake their advantage by just getting some, random AI stuff. So
yeah,
I think it really matters that we're actually giving value. It's the same with follow-ups. We say give value. It's not like fake value, right? And that's what I meant by like made in China. It's like it looks like gold, but it's like, oh no, it's just like white, yellow painting.
All right. Well, what about this thought? Imagine that all these lines that we did in the teardown, you could refer to it, just go to the previous episode for the teardown that we're not impressed with. In fact, it ruined the whole pitch that was otherwise decent.
Pretty good. Yeah.
Right. So imagine that wasn't a robot that did that. Imagine instead it was an employee or freelancer rather at $8 an hour. How quickly would they be fired if they came up with lines like that? They'd lose their job in a day, right?
That's true. But hey, this is ChatGPT is cheap. And I think that's the thing. It's like, it's not like, it's a false sense of value in a sense, right? It's not because an employee comes and is free. Hey, I'm going to come and work for you for nothing, like 10 cents an hour, but I'm going to write shit personalization. Would you hire that person? The answer is going to be no.
I mean, yeah, of course. Like, and when you see it like campaign. And yet it's still shiny and new enough to cloud our vision. So I mean, after this chat, I'm definitely wanting to stand on a soapbox and advise more people to roll up their sleeves and do it the right way. Kind of like a metaphor you use where think about craftsmanship in your campaign.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Like, are you? And look, this is not rooted in new ideas. Like, I think cold outreach and search marketing have a lot of overlap, and search is ahead of us in terms of what it's done to push quality content higher up in the rankings, if you will. Where to this day, we know not to waste your money with a bad writer who's not going to publish great stuff. It just won't work. And I think cold email is right there today in following the same footsteps, where like this cheap outreach that is now attainable and scalable to no end. Is it really better? Is it really better for your bottom line? Like, are you sure? Yes, it's cool. And yes, it's new and your competitors are talking about it, but really, like,
it's a cool narrative,
you receive that message today.
Yeah. It's, I think people are getting lured into this because it's a holy grail. Like, hey, I can do no work and get replies.
But
not that
I think
great.
It's time
it's
to
like
fire
a passive
the bots.
income. It's like passive income type of thing. Like, oh, passive income is no work and you get money. It's like, well, dig a little bit deeper and you'll see passive income doesn't exist. But anyway, yeah. So
I think that's a really good point. And Fire the bots. Yeah, I think it's time that we fire the bots. But look, like it's
Yeah,
not
the
like we're
bots.
old fogies. It's not like we're old fogies saying it doesn't have a place in business. That's incorrect.
Correct.
I think they're very valuable for qualifying companies. I think it's valuable for doing sales research, understanding your like turning a landing page into a slide deck. Yeah, use it to your advantage to help outline stuff, but know the limit and know the cost it is putting on your business. And that's all. Like use it the right way and let's return to craftsmanship maybe. Is that sort of it?
I love it. Laziness costs, right? And I think you said it like beautifully. Like if you had a human doing this, would you fire that human? And if the answer is yes, then why do you have the bot doing it, right?
Oh,
I don't know.
yeah, that's funny. It's like there is a serious cost associated with that cheapness. Thanks, Jeremy, for a great cast.
Yeah, thank you, Jack, for indulging me in being able to do that cool water
I
cooler
loved
with
it.
you.
I
Right.
loved it. Yeah. And if you listen this far, send us a note, podcast@quickmail.io, or leave a
No, yeah,
comment.
that's
We
fine.
we want to see if we are onto something here or crazy.
All right. Well, review this cast in 6 months, right? When your campaign is
There you
failing,
go.
and you'll know why.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jeremy.
All right. Thanks, Jack.
Sage advice.